Elden Ring, the latest RPG masterpiece from the mind of auteur Hidetaka Miyazaki, a twisted tale on a continental scale of yearning, of ruin, of a journey to reclaim what once was lost, and also this guy is there. Yeah, that's right, for all its savage boss battles and brooding beauty, From Software's latest game is also occasionally downright hilarious, or at least hilariously weird. Join us for 7 times Elden Ring made us laugh out loud. Spoiler-wise, there's nothing here from any of the main dungeons and no story or plot, but heads up, the very last entry does show one of the game's main boss fights, so be warned. All the footage is from the first half or so of the game, mostly because that's the only half we've played because we can't stop watching these dudes. Elden Ring does a pretty good job of teaching you just how terrifying its world is right from the get-go, when you, in quick succession, get attacked by a spider made of severed limbs, fall down a big hole, and then some guy called the Tree Sentinel shows up. I wasn't looking at the trees, I swear! Head east from where you start, however, and you'll find an even more memorable reminder of the sheer deadliness of what's out there in the lands between, in the form of a giant F-off dragon. That dragon, known as Flying Dragon Akil, is found in a lake next to the Dragon Burnt Ruins, which we suspect was called the Not On Fire Nice Place before Akil showed up. What changes this encounter from terrifying to hilarious, however, is how Akil arrives. The first thing you'll notice as you ride into the area is a group of folks enjoying a sit down around a campfire, an unusual show of friendship and camaraderie for a From Software game. But they say the secret to great comedy is timing, which is why Flying Dragon Akil chooses this moment to land directly on these poor suckers with the devastating speed and momentum of a crashing 747, scattering them in every direction, murdering them all instantly. See, that's good comedy. It really killed the audience. Elden Ring is just as full of devious traps as its Dark Souls predecessors, and they're just as weirdly funny as they ever were, and possibly even more devious. Oh, what, a treasure chest? You watch when I open it, it's probably going to transport me halfway across the map to some crystal-filled hell dimension, I expect. Touché. But of all the brutal ways to ambush you, the player, and we've seen a fair few, none made us laugh quite so explosively as the one found in Courier Manor, a wrecked fort full of ghostly soldiers. It's not all bad news here though. Courier Manor is packed full of valuable loot, with items scattered around ready for you to pick up off the ground. Look, there's one now. No! No! Yes, in a trap we feel extremely dumb for falling for, almost everything good in this area is guarded by car-sized, too-many-fingered hands that will clench up on you like a Venus flytrap before discarding you like the soiled napkin you are. We'd be angry if this wasn't so inherently hilarious. You got lucky, Miyazaki.
Hello? Can you hear me? Help me. I'm stuck.
Fair to say, Elden Ring is, how to put this delicately, overflowing with weirdos, all intent on bothering you with their weirdo problems. This monkey is desperate to make you clothes, this woman is trying to work up the courage to get her arms and legs cut off, and this rando stood entirely by himself on a big rock reckons he's the rightful king.
Someone who might be interested in rescuing the great Kenneth Haight, servant to the true order and celebrated repudiator of the false.
No offence, but I'm not sure King Kenneth has much of a ring to it. But the most outstanding weirdo in a crowded field is Alexander, or should that be out squatting in a crowded field, because this large sentient clay pot, for that is what Alexander is, has got his arse stuck in a hole.
I am Alexander, also known as the Iron Fist, and as you can see, I'm stuck here.
It's a refreshing break from rock-hard boss fights to have a chat with this hilarious oddball, or at least it is until Alexander asks you to do exactly what you spent all that time in boss fights doing, namely staying behind something bigger than you and hitting it in the butt.
Just give me a good smack from the rear with something nice and big.
Despite it being his idea, Alexander doesn't seem too keen on the extraction process, which is a shame because we think it's pretty amusing. It's absolutely worth doing this, not just because it's funny, but because Alexander gives you an important steer on a later game location, a festival of combat he's excited to enter despite being a large jar who often gets his arse stuck in the soft earth. The only downside is, having met the charming Iron Fist Alexander, you will feel awful for the rest of the game, scything through families of other living jars like an Anakin lightsabering so many younglings. I don't like this either, Jars, but I need these upgrade materials. Probably. For something down the line. Elden Ring players, especially those new to From Software RPGs, may reasonably lament the many ways in which the game is totally inscrutable. Like, what even is weapon scaling? Did my sword fail an exam? What gives? But one area you can't criticise the makers of Elden Ring is the area of poison, which couldn't be more obvious. I mean, it's big green clouds of clearly toxic stuff, and when you get hit by it, it says poison on screen. You might, however, take issue with the amount of poison in the game, which is high. And nothing is more irritating than being afflicted with this status effect, which, once triggered, very slowly chips your health away until, Oh, well, it would have slowly chipped the health away. The good news is that you can get revenge on the whole concept of poison, and the better news is that doing so is very funny and incredibly satisfying. Behold the aptly and questionably named Land Squirt, a main offender when it comes to poisoning you. These spore-spewing pods make fighting in their vicinity almost unbearable by flooding the atmosphere with poison fumes. Well, guess what? These squirts can't handle a taste of their own medicine. Craft up a few poison darts and chuck them at a squirt, and they'll go haywire with poison overload. Better yet, the vast poison cloud a popping squirt makes causes a chain reaction. Ho 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 ho! Damn, that felt good. Just don't be tempted to try the same trick on one of the giant land squirts. Don't know what I was expecting, truly. Elden Ring isn't all about fighting. Sometimes, for instance, it's about falling. Actually, make that mainly about falling. But when you're not fighting or falling, you may be utilising the third F, thinking. That is, thinking your way past the game's bizarre puzzles. One extremely peculiar example of an Elden Ring brain teaser are these locked towers. In front of each is an imp statue holding a text that reads cryptically, "Seek 3 wise beasts." And if you're thinking, I bet that means there are 3 ghost tortoises hidden nearby, then you must work for From Software, because literally nobody else would be thinking that. This hilariously odd puzzle requires you to find and bonk 3 hidden gentle giants. And boy, for barely mobile animals, these tortoises sure get around. The ones that really made us lol though were the tortoise who is, for no reason, invisible. And the tortoise who somehow got up a tree, despite being an extremely heavy and famously slow land reptile. This is not a very wise place for you to be, tortoise. You're welcome. You know you found your game of the year when you don't have to play for very many hours to get a special hat that turns you into a JPEG of a tree. Behold the Mimic's Veil, a surprisingly useful and unfailingly hilarious item that turns you into a piece of nearby scenery. This item is invaluable for stealthy incursions into enemy territory, as it makes enemies oblivious to the fact a powerful tarnished warrior is moving through their camp, and instead think an ordinary box is moving through their camp, somehow. Okay, to be fair, the Mimic's Veil might not exactly be foolproof, as anything that spots a piece of inanimate set dressing gliding about is likely to be suspicious, if not immediately hostile. But it is always funny. And word to the wise, if everyone in the area is distracted, say fighting rot-infested hyenas, well, why not turn into a statue and pootle about for a while, hoovering up all the runes of all the chumps who get massacred, and criticising everyone else's fighting technique. Seriously, is nobody going to get that critical? No? Amateurs. You might think Torrent is the hardest working steed in Elden Ring, seeing as how they're summoned 50 times an hour to sprint full pelt across the landscape, or run in circles around an extremely poisonous dragon, and for absolutely no reward, unless we've missed the button that feeds the poor thing a crunchy apple every now and again. But if you think Torrent is Elden Ring's most overworked steed, then you've clearly yet to witness the proportionally tiny horse ridden by the boss known as Star Scourge Radhan. Encountered in the red-tinged wastes of Caelid in the east, General Radhan is a monumental foe, who the game describes as cursed ever to wander and eaten from the inside by scarlet rot, feasting like a dog on the corpses of friends and foes alike. An extremely terrifying description that is entirely undercut by the fact that he runs around on a tiny flailing horse. Just try not to laugh at the sight of Radhan's comedy steed, its legs going like the clappers as it somehow heaves the general, who is roughly the size of an apartment block, around the battlefield at 50 miles per hour. So busy will you be chuckling away at the tiny pony straining away between Radhan's titanic armoured legs that you won't notice Radhan's enormous blade spinning right for you. Or at least that's our excuse. In classic From Software style, of course, we can't just enjoy the slapstick comedy of a huge boss monster on a tiny horse, we need melancholy backstory for both. And indeed, studying the Remembrance of Star Scourge Radhan in your inventory reveals the gravity magic he deploys to such murderous effect during the boss fight was studied specifically so that he could keep riding his scrawny beloved horse. Which is sweet, but I suspect if you asked the horse it would still volunteer for retirement. I mean, an orchard full of apple trees this ain't, Radhan. That made us lol. Can you think of any more? Please let us know in the comments if so, because we would like to make this video again in a commentary edition if we possibly can. Thank you for watching this. Hope you enjoyed it. There's some other Elden Ring stuff on screen that you can watch from us now. And if you did enjoy this, then why not consider joining the OX Supporters Club on Patreon? It's completely optional, but if you did want to join, then you get access to a cool Discord where we're chatting mostly about Elden Ring at the moment, I'll be honest, and it's mostly me talking about Elden Ring in there. But it's a good time, and you can find a link in the description, or there's a button on screen now. Alright, thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye!